Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome back to our Entitled People, where we dive into tales of folks who think they deserve the world just for existing. Today, we've got 8 outrageous stories. First, a woman demands free pretzels at a closed amusement park pretzel shop, insisting they're day-old despite being fresh. Second, an entitled brother-in-law demands to trade houses, expecting upgrades and a free house for his growing family. Third, a Karen claims her husband owns a pizza place to bypass health rules, only to be humiliated when the real owner and landlord expose her lie. Finally, at Universal Studios Japan, a mother demands a fellow American guide her to a ride, guilt-tripping with her daughter's tantrum when refused. Buckle up for these head-shaking stories, hit that subscribe button, and stay for the laughs. Here's a bit of backstory. I work at a pretty big pretzel company, but for privacy reasons, I'll call it Uncle Un's. I've worked there for a year already, and this happened pretty early in my second year. This particular pretzel place was inside a small amusement park, so this story takes place 5 minutes after my shift ends. I'm tired, and I just want to go home. We were busy cleaning and not paying attention to the window because normally most families would have left by this point. Then we hear a knock on our window. Since I'm the cashier, I walk up to the window and say the line I always say, "Hi, how can I help you today?" The entitled woman said, "Yeah, are you guys closed?" I told her we closed 5 minutes ago, and she said, "Great, do you have any leftover pretzels?" I told her, "Yeah, we do." She asked if she could have them. I asked her how many she would like, and she told me 5. I then said, "All right, that comes to $21.15, since it's $4.23 per pretzel." She says, "What? Aren't they discounted?" I told her if she has a season pass, it's 15% off, and she said, "No, you're closed, so the pretzels should be half off." Me, wanting to go home and not caring anymore, said, "And why do you think that?" She said, "You're closed, so that means the pretzels are a day old and should be discounted. For the record, we switch out our pretzels every 30 minutes, and I told her, "Those pretzels are only 30 minutes old." She replied, "Fine, so I can get 15% off, right?" I said, "If you have a season pass, yes." The entitled woman responds, "No, I should get 15% off because you're closed." I said, "Ma'am, no. As you stated, we're closed, so we're no longer selling pretzels. I'm only offering them to you because my boss wants as many sold as possible." She says, "See, you can't sell them. They're probably going to go bad the next day, and you'll have to throw them out anyway. They should be free." I told her, "No, they're not. Just a note here, we don't throw out food. I usually take the leftovers home and eat them for my dinner." She replied, "You're throwing them away anyway. My kids are hungry." I said, "Then buy them some food." She starts screaming something that nobody but dogs could understand and leaves. I know this story isn't as interesting as some of the others, but I just had to post this, guys. I know for a fact this happens so much in the fast food industry. If you've been listening to me for a while, you'll know I used to work at Quiznos years and years ago. I can't tell you about all the countless people who came in right at 9 p.m. when we closed and literally said we should give them leftover food for free because they know how much food is wasted in fast food stores. I don't really know what these people were thinking we were throwing out though, because subs at Quiznos were made to order and we rarely threw any food away after a shift. We never gave any food to anybody for free. Next story. 5 years ago, my husband and I bought a house. We had been saving for years for the down payment, and the stars must have aligned for us to get it. Everything worked out perfectly. The house was a major fixer-upper, but it had land, and we were happy with that. It turns out my brother-in-law had looked at the house when it was listed as well. They decided it was too much work to fix it up and not worth it. They wanted major upgrades too, whereas my husband and I are very simple people. We don't need granite countertops, a soaking tub, or hardwood floors. We met up with family recently, and my brother-in-law was talking about how cramped their condo has become with 2 kids now. He decided it was time to tell us that we should trade houses. I kid you not, my brother-in-law is very, very entitled. He proceeded to argue that we are only 2 people and their family is growing and could use the space. He literally suggested that we give our house to him and buy out his condo. I laughed. I knew he was serious, but I couldn't help but laugh. I have never in my life imagined that someone could be so darn entitled that they'd demand someone give up their home for the sake of another family. Are you kidding me? My brother-in-law then got mad at me for not even considering it and began justifying all the reasons his family needed our house more. You think this would be the worst part, right? No, it gets even better. We haven't finished the basement, so there's only 1 bathroom in the house. My brother-in-law informed me that if we were to trade houses, we would need to make some major upgrades first because he wouldn't have the time to make any major renovations. He was somehow inexplicably certain that I would see the logic in his plan and just trade houses with them because they needed the extra space so much more. Now, my brother-in-law isn't even talking to me because I laughed through the whole thing and wouldn't take him seriously. It's a win-win. Go ahead, punish me by not talking to me. At least then you'll stop trying to make me the bad guy and tell everybody how horrible I am because I wouldn't buy out your condo at market value while giving you our house out of the goodness of our hearts. Last I heard, he was now trying to tell my father-in-law to retire and move to the city so he could have the farm. Joke's on him, though. My father-in-law has already talked about it and has left the farm to me and my husband in his will because we actually farm, and my brother-in-law thinks it's too much work. I've always thought the internet exaggerated that people like this exist, and I thought situations like this could never possibly be real. What the heck are these people thinking? Hold on. Did Op really say that the brother-in-law wanted to sell his place to her and in return she just gives him their house? Oh, how about you just give me your house, and in return you buy mine so I can make some money off of it? That's some crazy entitlement, guys. I've been reading a lot of entitled stories about family members wanting other family members' houses. There are just too many. So, let me know if you guys have ever been in this situation or know of somebody who has. Next story. Okay, so I work at a large chain pizza place, but in a smaller town that nobody really knows exists. We only do carry-out and delivery now. For this story to make sense, the store has a landlord, but my boss is considered the owner of the store, even though it's a chain restaurant. They're two different people, though, who own this building. So, this Karen comes in one morning while I'm the manager on my shift. The only other person there is my delivery driver. The driver is a 20-year-old male, and I'm a 24-year-old female, but honestly, I look very young. This was like last month. We aren't allowed to have customers come indoors, so we walk to their car. I very politely inform Karen that she can't come indoors, and I'll be more than happy to assist her at her car. Karen says, "That won't be necessary, I'm allowed in here." I said, "No ma'am, we're not allowed to have any customers indoors because of the restrictions. We could get temporarily shut down if we do." Karen then says, "My husband is the owner, just take my order." Now the landlord is not married. He comes around a lot and he's very young, like my age. My boss is married to the absolute sweetest person I've ever known, and they both live an hour away in a different state. Karen's like in her mid-40s and definitely not the sweet woman I've met and known for years. I said, "Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but you're not married to the owner. I'm going to need you to step outside of the store and I'll be more than happy to assist you outside." Karen says, "Excuse me? I can get you fired, you know." I told her, "I hope you do, but I still need you to step outside of the store so I can take your order." Karen responds, "I will not take this treatment. I'll call the owner and get you fired." I told her, "Okay, while you do that, I'm going to call the actual owner so he can tell you to step outside of the store." Karen grabs her phone and starts calling someone. I call my boss and explain the situation. While I'm talking, Karen interrupts me to say, "Yeah, he says you're fired. You're too young to be working here anyway, so I don't know why he hired a child to work, but you don't work here anymore." My boss overhears this and starts laughing and asks to be put on speakerphone. He says, "Ma'am, I'm the owner of the store and I would never allow my wife, who's sitting next to me, to come into the store during the pandemic. It's a violation of current health laws, and we have the right to call authorities if necessary. Please step outside the door." Karen is screeching that she's married to the building owner, the landlord, but calls him by the wrong name. My boss starts laughing again because the landlord has no control over the actual store. He just owns the building, and we pay him rent. The landlord is also currently right outside working on the roof. So at this point I say, "Oh, I didn't know the landlord got married. I'll go congratulate him. Come on, let's go." So I walk outside and Karen is following me, mumbling something. I said, "Hey, landlord, do you mind coming down here for a second?" Karen looks absolutely mortified at this point. She definitely messed up, and she knows it, but no, I'm going to keep rolling with this. The landlord comes down from the ladder, confused as heck. I say, "Hey, landlord, your new wife here says you just fired me and that she's allowed indoors. Now, I didn't know you got married. I'm so happy for you." So, long story short, Karen is embarrassed and told to get off the property before the police are called. She mumbles something I still can't understand, and then says, "I can't believe a dumb teenager is doing this to me," and turns to go to her car. Now, Karen just calls to ask for delivery, which I will happily do, and I still laugh about it all the time. Oh my goodness, to think this whole situation could have been avoided if she just stepped outside and had her order taken there. Guys, why do Karens make things so hard for themselves sometimes? I still don't understand what the heck she was thinking though. If you're not married to the owner, don't say you are. Next story. I'm a 24-year-old female working in Osaka, Japan. Naoko, a work friend, invited me to Universal Studios Japan. I agreed because Universal Studios Japan has owls, live, adorable, real owls, at their Harry Potter adventure, which the United States does not have. Naoko is nervous to go see them because she doesn't like big birds, but I want to go, so I'm asking her nicely to come with me, or to wait for me while I see them. While we were discussing this, someone taps me on the shoulder. I turn around and see a well-dressed mother and her 11-year-old daughter. They look pretty normal. The mother, Karen, is wearing a Harry Potter shirt and looking lost. Her daughter is begging to go on a ride. Karen pulls out a map and says, "Hey, do you speak English? I can't figure out where this ride is." I point in the general direction where we came from and say, "I do. We just came from that ride over there." Karen taps the map with a perfectly manicured talon instead. "But where specifically?" Naoko pops in because she's the most helpful person in the world. That's not sarcastic, she's wonderful. She asks, "Do you have a pen?" and mimes drawing on the map. Karen jerks the sacred map to her chest and says, "Do not touch our map, just take us there." Now I can see how annoyed Karen is getting. I'm thankful that Karen has made Naoko more interested in seeing the majestic sky cats. Anything I think is better than being around Karen. So I tell Karen that unfortunately they have left the building and will not return this season due to budget cuts in the account. I tell her as politely as I can, we're going to go see the owls. Just ask one of the workers. We found a couple of people who speak really good English. Naoko and I are off to see the wizard, and Karen says loudly, "Just take us to the ride." I told her no, we have to go now. Karen says, "My daughter is going to be really upset if we don't get to the ride before closing." I told her to talk to an employee because I'm not a tour guide. Karen says, "But you're American. You should help me. Americans should help each other." I told her no thanks and have a nice day. Karen then turns to her daughter and tells her that I'm not going to show them where the ride is, so they won't be able to do it before Daddy finds them, and that I ruined their day. This 11-year-old girl proceeds to fall onto the ground and starts sobbing, throwing an absolute silent fit, pounding on the ground with her hands, all while not making any noise. Naoko and I decide that we're going to leave. Karen's just standing there while we leave, telling her daughter that we ruined the day instead of, asking the super bilingual employees. Next story. A couple of years ago, I stopped at a Lowe's to exchange my empty propane tank. I had just finished securing a new one in my trunk when I heard a shout from across the parking lot. "Excuse me, can you help?" I looked up and saw a middle-aged woman having trouble getting a microwave she just bought into her trunk. No problem, so I went over and helped her. The microwave wasn't too heavy, and it fit perfectly into her car. She thanked me, I nodded, and started to walk away. I was a few feet from her car when I heard her say, "Aren't you going to take my cart back up there?" I turned around and saw her pointing at her shopping cart. She said, "Take my cart." I started to get a little agitated and said, "Oh, you know I don't work here, right?" She replied, "Yeah, I know, but you should still be a gentleman and take my cart." I responded, "No, I was helping you out with the microwave, but I'm not about to take your cart." Now she yelled, pointing to the store, "Okay, whatever." I didn't want to get into an argument in the middle of a Lowe's parking lot, so I sighed, walked back to her, and took her cart. I started to bring it back toward the store, but this did not quite sit right with me. I was okay with helping her with the microwave, but she was certainly capable of doing this part of the job herself. If people always do this kind of thing for her, she'll never learn her lesson. I was about 10 feet away from her when I decided to stop pushing the cart back and wait for her to get into her car. As soon as she shut her door, I turned around, walked back to her parking spot, and left that shopping cart right behind her car so she couldn't leave without getting out and moving it herself. I hope that wonderful lady is having the best of luck with her microwave. Guys, I'm keeping this one in my arsenal just in case this ever happens to me. I was certain that OP was going to give in to this lady and return her cart for her, but well done, OP. 10 out of 10 ending. Next story. Today my husband and I were feeling bored and adventurous, so we decided to make a pilgrimage to a posh coffee bar in our city. We've been meaning to go for months, but never got around to it. We pulled into the lot, and it was packed at 10:45 in the morning on a Sunday, so we expected it. As I'm getting out of the car, a mom next to me was struggling to get 3 kids out of their seats while her husband stood by the front of the car, watching but not helping. I hopped out, excused myself, and walked into the cafe with my husband. There was a huge line. 2 more people came in after us, and then the mom and her horde arrived. She immediately started complaining about the line, loudly at first to her husband, but when he clearly ignored her, she decided to complain to thin air. She was saying things like, "Why is this line always so long? Goodness, why don't they have any more staff? Why does every person have to come at the same darn time? Ugh." She eventually asked the couple in front of her if she could go ahead, because her kids were really hungry, complete with a guilting, sad face. These saints begrudgingly said, "Sure," so now they were directly behind my husband and me. She then said to me, "Excuse me, miss, may we have the spot before you in line? My children have been waiting a long time and are very hungry." With the nicest voice I could find, I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we've been waiting a while too and are also hungry. The line is moving faster now, at least." I gave her a smile, even though she was glaring at me. I turned back around, only to hear her mutter, "Wow, what a jerk! Can you believe some people? How rude!" It took all my effort not to react. My husband is a conflict avoider, but I'm not. However, I respect his wishes enough not to cause a scene in public when I'm with him. Eventually, she started telling her husband how they're always out of the spinach breakfast sandwich she wants, and she better get it this time, or she's going to be upset. This is when I concocted a seriously evil plan. I checked my watch, and it was 10:55. A minute or two later, it was our turn. My husband ordered his soy chai, and I slowly ordered my vanilla nitro cold brew with cream, or no, not cream, sorry, with soy, and an extra pump of vanilla. The barista rang us up, and as I checked my watch, it was 10:58. I asked to add the Mediterranean spinach breakfast sandwich to the order. She said, "Sure, no problem," gave us the total, and I started digging through my purse for my wallet. Darn, I just couldn't seem to find it. More digging. Oh, there it is. Finally, I handed her the card, waited for the receipt, and slowly signed. I packed my purse back up, said thank you, and walked away. My husband said, "You're hungry? We just ate breakfast an hour ago." I told him, "I'm not hungry. I just had to do this." He asked, "Do what?" I nodded toward the mom, and my husband looked over. She ordered her coffee and some juice for the kids without even asking her husband if he wanted anything. Then it happened. She said, "And 1 Mediterranean spinach breakfast sandwich." The barista responded, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. We just sold the last sandwich, and breakfast stops at 11. We have all of our lunch options today, though." The mom looked at her watch and yelled, "What? Are you kidding me? It's 11:02. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the company policy is to stop breakfast at 11. Is there anything else I can get you?" At this point, the mom was screaming, "Get me your manager! This is ridiculous. You just sold one a moment ago. This is absurd." The manager came over, explained the situation, and apologized, but refused to give in to make her a new sandwich. Bless her heart, the mom retracted the entire order and stomped out, red-faced and yelling, to her car. My husband was trying to hold back his laughter. Our order came up, and we grabbed it and went back to the car. I unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite exactly as I was trying to scoot around her and said, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am, I'm just going to sneak by you real quick." She gave me the worst death stare I've ever gotten. I got in the car and unwound the windows ever so slightly. "It's hot today, right?" I slowly unwrapped the rest of the sandwich and took a few more bites, passing it to my husband. As soon as she pulled away, we burst into laughter. Guys, what a great way to shut down an entitled woman with some lovely petty revenge. But guys, I have to know, are there places that are so strict that they won't make you a breakfast sandwich 2 minutes after a certain time? Next story. I'm a delivery driver for a major food delivery company in a major college town in Texas, where everybody loves maroon. Normally, it's not bad. It pays pretty well, and the customers are generally fine, though you'll always have difficult people in every service job. This, however, surpassed anything I've ever experienced before. I got an order alert on my phone, a relatively simple but expensive order from a restaurant nearby. In the portion for delivery instructions, the customer explained that I needed to call her once I arrived, as ringing the doorbell would disturb her autistic son. Okay, no problem at all. I received therapy for sensory issues when I was a kid, so I'm even more sympathetic to that than the average person. I received the order and drove over to the house, which was in a nice part of town. I gave the customer a call. A young woman answered, told me to come up to the door, and I did so. Then entered the entitled mother, who, strangely, was fairly attractive and did not have the typical Karen haircut. I said, "Here's your order, ma'am. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" She responded, "Yes, my son. He's autistic, and people like you don't understand how difficult it is to raise him. I shouldn't have to pay this much for food. Can you give me a discount?" Baffled, I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the app calculates your order total, not me. It's already been paid for." The entitled mother did not like that answer. Her face changed from a smug smirk into a snarl. "I suppose I didn't realize how ridiculous the idea that people would pay for their own food is," she said. "Well, why don't you pay for it then? I'm not sure if you heard, but my son, he's autistic. Don't let him go hungry." I told her, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but that goes against our policy. If I paid for your order, I'd probably be fired." She said, "Good. You're a useless driver anyway. You're disgusting. My son is starving to death. Since I've had to go through so much trouble with you, you should tip me." I told her, "I can't do that, ma'am, and here's your order." I dropped the food gently on the ground between us and jogged back to my car. She was shouting something unintelligible, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. Unsurprisingly, she gave me a 1-star review. I contacted support about it the next day and told them, "Yeah, I had a crazy lady yesterday that started demanding that I pay for her order and even that I tip her." I gave them the order number and the address, and the service rep said, "Yikes, you're the third person to complain about her. 1 or 2, I'll take with a grain of salt, but 3, you're probably out. I'll try to get her deactivated. If so, her review will be off your record. I feel like the entire world is better off now that she won't get deliveries from us anymore. That remains to be seen." Wow, what a super entitled woman, guys. Demanding that OP pay for her meal because her son has autism and is difficult to raise? I don't even know what to say to that. And I can't believe that she asked OP to tip her. What is going on here? Next story. I'm an 18-year-old male. I was born completely deaf and mute, and I'm partially blind in my left eye. I've lived with my sister who's 28 years old, and she's been taking care of me since our parents died. Recently, she got married and went on her honeymoon, so I'm on my own for a few weeks. This happened yesterday. Usually, whenever I go out, I'm accompanied by my sister due to my disability, but since she's on her honeymoon, I had to go out alone. There was a new supermarket that opened in our area, and I needed some items, so I decided to go there and grab them. It was my mistake for wearing a red-colored shirt, almost similar to the employees working there, but if you looked closely, you could see it was not the uniform. I was at the electronics section, looking for some batteries, when I saw an old man struggling to get some DVDs from the top shelf. Since I'm tall, I helped him, and he thanked me and went on his way. Then I began looking for the batteries. That's when I felt someone grab my left wrist. I turned around, and a woman in her late 40s smacked me. She was speaking something, but I couldn't follow her lips as she spoke too fast. However, I was able to catch some words like you, ignore, and Job. I signed to her that I'm deaf. Apparently, this was the wrong move because she became more irate toward the signs. Again, she was yelling something, but I couldn't catch anything. So, I took my notebook and started writing down that I'm deaf and mute. Before I could finish, she grabbed my notebook and pen and threw them away. She then slapped me again and pushed me. Luckily, by this time, a store employee came to see what the commotion was about. He saw me on the ground and helped me up. He then asked what happened. Before I could sign to him, Karen started to yell at the employee. After she finished, I signed to the employee that I cannot hear or speak. Then I wrote down and showed the employee to call the cops on her. The employee nodded and called the cops, and Karen tried to run away, but security caught her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They first talked to the employee, who explained the situation about how Karen assaulted me because she mistook me for a store employee. One police officer came and spoke to me. I understood that he wanted my version of the events, so I wrote everything down and showed it to the officer. Then they went to check the CCTV footage. They came back and asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I gladly said yes. Karen was shocked, placed in handcuffs, and given a free ride in the back of the police cruiser. The manager then explained to me that Karen thought I worked there and became angry that I ignored her. She had been standing on my left side, so I obviously couldn't see her. The manager asked if I could drop the charges for that mistake, but I refused. The store manager then offered me a 50% discount on the products. I texted my sister about the events that happened, and she was livid. Oh, and did I mention that my sister is a lawyer? She told me herself that she'll be handling the case to see that Karen gets the maximum penalty. The court date is around 40 days from now. I'll update after the court. Guys, I am so glad that OP pressed charges. I still do not understand how some people feel the need to put hands on others. I also can't believe that Karen asked OP to drop the charges. Yeah, let's drop the charges for her mistake of not knowing OP was deaf and couldn't hear her. These stories are a wild mix of betrayal, entitlement, and clever retribution, resonating with the revenge and Karen-centric tales you've shared before. Here's my take on each. The pretzel shop Karen demanding free leftovers post-closing is peak entitlement. Her logic that day-old pretzels only 30 minutes old should be discounted or free is absurd. I love how the OP held firm, refusing to cave despite her tantrum. It reminds me of your Quiznos story where customers expected free food at closing. Fresh or not, it's not free. The brother-in-law's house trade demand is jaw-dropping. Suggesting the OP swap their fixer-upper for his condo, expecting upgrades first, is delusional. I laughed at the OP's refusal and the irony of inheriting the father-in-law's farm. It's like your story of a family member demanding your pool. Entitlement runs deep. The pizza place Karen lying about being the owner's wife to bypass restrictions is hilarious. I admire the OP's quick thinking, calling the real owner and embarrassing her in front of the landlord. Her mortified exit is pure justice, echoing your tale of a customer falsely claiming connections at Kmart. The Universal Studios Karen demanding a personal escort in Japan is infuriating. Her Americans help Americans line and guilting with her daughter's tantrum are manipulative. I respect the OP's refusal to play tour guide, like your story of dodging a Karen's demands at a playground. The Lowe's cart incident is maddening. The woman's expectation that the OP return her cart after helping with her microwave is entitled. Leaving it behind her car? Genius petty revenge. Like your glitter trap for porch pirates. The coffee bar Karen's line-cutting attempt with a sob story about hungry kids is shameless. I love the OP's sly order of the last breakfast sandwich triggering her meltdown. It's akin to your cookie-eating revenge at the market. The delivery driver's encounter with the autistic son excuse is vile. Demanding the op pay for her order and tip her? Unhinged. I'm thrilled she was deactivated after multiple complaints like your story of a banned grocery store Karen. The supermarket assault on a deaf teen is heartbreaking. The Karen's violence over a misunderstanding is inexcusable. I admire the OP's resolve to press charges, backed by their lawyer sister. It's like your tale of standing up to an aggressive Karen. Justice prevails. And that, my friends, is another episode of our subreddit, Entitled People. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode today and you aren't subscribed, do hit that subscribe button. If you want to hear more Entitled People stories, check out the last one I did. If you missed it, check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you.